issue is the inability to articulate the situation. When I discovered this was before 2018, actually. I was working with an organization. We had done a half-day retreat. I was also working with the 3 top leaders, the C-suite leaders. And in coaching and talking with one of the top C-suite leaders, this leader said something to me that was on the nature of, I've got this director and he's really worthless. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, he's just not good. He doesn't care. He's not engaged, and he just doesn't have a good work product. And I thought, this is so unclear because it's really a lot of generalizations. So I said, well, what's he doing that he shouldn't be doing? And he said, well, that's really hard to say. And I said, well, what's he not doing that he should be doing? And he said, you're making this difficult. Just believe me. I can tell that he doesn't care just by watching him. He knows better. And he said, I kind of inherited this person anyway. And I said, well, how long has he worked with you? And he said, 12 years. And that's when I realized he didn't really know how to articulate the situation. So here's the result when you don't know how to articulate the situation. Avoiding appeasing aggression, as I explained, wasting thousands and thousands of dollars on coaching and workshops for the wrong person. This is something that happens a lot in my world. I get someone that says, we've got a department where everybody's arguing and, excuse me, we need to have a workshop. We need to have this intervention. We've got a plan and we're going to fix this. Come to find out, it's really just a couple of people. And the real issue is the leader in that position doesn't know how to have the conversation with the very people who are causing the problem. And there's this lack of leadership confidence. And so they're trying to build this plan around a workshop, a book study, assessment, a 360. And this happens at all levels and all layers. As a result, there's dysfunctional teams. The team members know that there's 1 or 2 people that need some sort of help and they're not getting it. And before long, you get gossip, you get innuendo, you get people calling in, you get absenteeism. It's a ripple effect. The root cause here is very structural. And what I mean by that, there's no planning, there's no foundation, and there's no framework. I have found in doing this work for over 20 years that when you have a foundation, when you have the same language, when you have a structure, a framework, not a script necessarily, but a framework, it teaches you where you are in a conversation and it's easy to analyze what's working or what's not working. So what to do instead? In my performance coaching model, before the framework of leadership clarity, employee clarity, and accountability, there is some planning that takes place. And I believe you should plan every conversation at first. Once you learn how to do this, it becomes automatic. But until you do it, it's not automatic. And you make all those assumptions, you wing it, and you do all these problems that we've talked about so far. So in the performance coaching model, I have a tool called the Leadership Clarity Tool where you actually walk through what's happening that shouldn't be, what's not happening that should be, who's involved, what behaviors they're exhibiting, what needs to start, what needs to stop, and how it affects the business. Once you start learning to think like that, I tell you, you will be able to coach others because I can hear it. And when I do coaching, I can hear immediately where we are in that process of what's happening, what's not happening, who's involved, how it affects the business. If you don't know those things, it's harder to have the conversation. You won't really feel like you know where you're going in the conversation. So once you learn how to plan, it's just easier to build the conversation.